Hey everybody, it's Dana Joy from Got Joy Creations, back with a card to show you. It is about 1 a.m. in the morning and I can't sleep, so I ended up coming down to my stamp room and made a card using this cool new stencil that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. This stencil is created, or the company that sells it is the Crafter's Workshop. And there's this stencil right there. As you can see, it's pretty stained from the first card that I made, but let me show you how it works. I'm going to grab some of my Adirondack ink. I've had some of this ink on here for a while now. I just haven't used it, so it was perfect to pull out for this masking technique. So I'm going to use those three colors, which is a yellow, like a teal, and a magenta. Now I'm going to grab my blending tool that just has a piece of felt stuck down to the top of it. I'm just going to rub it on pretty hard. And I'm just going to grab some ordinary Georgia Pacific paper from Walmart. I think I picked it up from. I'm going to use a piece of paper underneath so I don't mess up my craft mat. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of drops of the Adirondack ink on top of my blending tool. I'm just going to open all of them up at once so I'll be ready to add the drops and I don't have to wait and open up each container. So it's a pretty simple technique. So what you're going to do is just add a few drops of the ink all over the top of the felt. No real pattern to it. You're just kind of like dropping down the different color inks on there. So I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. Then I think I'm going to go ahead and stop right there. Okay. Now let's go ahead and grab the stencil, or rather the mask, and I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive on the back so it can stick down to the paper. Not a lot because I don't want it to bond with the paper, but enough that I'm going to be able to keep that mask into place. I'm just going to line everything up, kind of eyeball it towards the center of the paper because I don't want to cut off any of the numbers. Okay, and now all you're going to do is pounce. You're just going to up and down pounce across the mask. And I'm going to use a little bit of turning and twisting so I can get the colors to blend a little bit. So you can see that I'm getting a really cool print on the opposite side of that mask. So you're just going to keep loading up the paper with the ink, turning and twisting so you kind of get a different design each time you lay down the pouncer. Going to cover every single area because you don't want to leave any of the edges white. I'm going to add in a little bit more yellow because I'm not seeing a good amount of yellow. I think I'm just going to go ahead and add some to the corner there so I can make sure I have all three colors all over the mask. So it's a pretty fun and easy technique, and what's so cool about it is that you get a different color pattern every single time you do this. It's not going to be the same. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish that up a little bit. And now I'm going to go ahead and grab a glove because I don't want to get my hand stained. And trust me, my hand stained the last time I made the card, so I just want to be careful this time. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab that mask and pull it off the paper. And voila! Is that just not the coolest effect ever? So easy, not a lot of product to be used. I think it came out gorgeous. Now let's get started putting a card together. So I'm going to go ahead and move that paper out of the way because we no longer need that scrap piece of paper. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a scrap piece of hot pink out of my scrap bin. As I've always tell you guys, I always keep a ton of scrap paper. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some adhesive here along to the back on all four corners to make sure we get a good bond with our paper. And again, I'm just going to eyeball it, try to get it in the center. Remember, it's 1 a.m. in the morning, so I'm struggling here, people. So I'm just going to, okay, I think that's good enough. Just going to go with that. All right. Now you see there's a little bit of adhesive stuck to the white part. All you need to do is grab I have a rubber eraser that's good for removing adhesive. So I'm just going to go ahead and scrub across where some of that adhesive residue was. And I also learned a trick from Jennifer McGuire. You can also grab a pencil, a white pencil, and scrub, and any of the residue that's left or the pucker up of the paper wipes away perfectly. See? Voila. No issues at all. So now I just want to show you how that's going to look when it's popped up on the white card base that we're going to use for this card. Oh my God, how pretty is that? That is absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so now we're going to start on the next part of our card. I'm going to use a Simon Says stamp birthday balloons. So I'm going to grab one of the balloons and that happy birthday sentiment. And then next I'm also going to use the die cut from Simon Says, and this is the balloons, and we're going to use the second biggest one, or second smallest one rather. Okay, that's my scrap piece of paper from my last card. So I'm going to grab some of my ink, and that is scattered straw and pickled raspberry. These are my distressed inks, and I really love these inks. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab that stamp there and get the stamping in that scattered straw in there with the top. Just going to add some ink to my balloon. I'm just going to put it off to the corner because we're going to die cut that, so no need to waste a lot of paper. I'm just going to grab a baby wipe and go ahead and clean off that stamp. I don't want to get any of that yellow into my pink. And I love these colors. I think they're fun, really bright, vibrant colors for spring. So we're just going to go ahead and add some of that pickled raspberry. I'm going to go ahead and stamp that down right below the yellow balloon. I think these colors are going to go great with that background we created. Go ahead and clean off my stamp again. Let's go ahead and get that ink out of the way. And then next I'm going to go ahead and grab that balloon die. So that is going to give a nice white border around our image. I'll be back after I cut this out. Okay, now we're going to bring back in those balloons. I'm going to set them off to the side. And what I want to do is lay down my panel just to see where I want to stamp my sentiment. So I'm going to go ahead and put my balloons in to see where I want them. And now I'm going to grab my sentiment. I just want to make sure that I have enough room when I stamp that my happy birthday is not running off the page or is not going to interfere with that panel I have there. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab my block. I'm going to line that up a little bit just to make sure it's about in the area where I want it. And I'm just going to press down and pick up my sentiment. I always use the VersaFine Onyx Black ink when I do sentiments because it just gives a really great bold black impression. Let's get some of that ink off of the corner. We don't want that on our card. So again, I'm just going to grab my panel, make sure I'm placing it in the right place. Okay, I guess, yep, I think right in that corner will be all right. Just going to stamp down, press kind of hard because I want to get a good image there. Okay, perfect. As you can tell, I'm really tired, people. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and line that panel up, make sure I got it where I want it, and we're going to go ahead and add some glue. Sorry about that, I'm kind of in front of my light there. As you can tell, there's bits of white paper on the back of that pink. Again, it was from my scrap bin, so I'd never throw away anything. Okay, now we're just going to go ahead and place that down on the front of the card. Kind of catty cornered, just a little bit off centered, a little bit crooked like my mind is tonight. Okay, let's go ahead on and put our balloons on. I'm going to grab some snail adhesive, and I'm also going to grab some black, it's kind of like string. I believe this is by American Crafts. And I'm just going to eyeball how much of that string I'm going to need for my project. So I guess that's about good enough. I'm going to go ahead and trim that piece there, and I'm also going to use that piece to measure what my next piece is going to be. And we'll just trim some of that too. Let's get that out of the way. And we're going to add some adhesive to the back of those balloons, if I can get it up. Just a small bit. You don't need a lot because you just need enough to hold down that string or cording. It's kind of like frayed cording. I don't know what you really want to call that kind of ribbon or string. Okay. I'm going to add some pop-up dots because we're going to have our balloons popping off of that panel. We don't want everything to be so flat. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and peel off the rest of that adhesive and pop those off of those balloons. Then I'm going to figure out where I want to lay everything down. I think I'll start with the yellow balloon first. Just right off the side of that 3. I'm going to pull down my string, and then let's go ahead and add the pink. catty corner off of the yellow. Again, nothing is straight tonight, or actually this morning. And I'm just going to pull down, and that's about right where I want to add a homemade enamel dot. I always make my own glue dots, but I also made my own enamel dot. I'm going to have some pictures up on my blog a little bit later to show you how I created those. They're the coolest thing ever. I don't think I ever purchased another enamel dot. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that on to my glue. And I'm going to grab it. Now I'm going to pull down those strings. Kind of have them really close together. Bring them down to a point, and then I'm going to place my enamel dot on there. Press it down, and then the rest of that string we can go ahead and cut off because we no longer need that. So we're just going to trim that off, and our card is almost done. Look at that. Love it. So let's get rid of those glue dots before I end up gluing myself to my table. Okay, so to finish off the card, I'm going to add some white faux stitching across the top and the bottom of that panel. In faux stitching, I love faux stitching. Really, really easy. You can do it really with any colored gel pen. And they're just like little hash marks, I guess, or just little dashes, but it kind of makes your image pop off a little bit, shows a little bit more detailed instead of it just being that panel on top of that white. So we're almost done. I'm going to go ahead and finish up the last few. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to grab my black Copic liner pen, and I'm going to outline that number 4. So I believe this was just a 0.3. And again, just making those little dash marks, I'm going to outline that 4. And believe it or not, I love doing dashes. It just seems to be like something that can relax me when I'm doing a project. And again, I just think it adds just a touch of detail to your cards. So I'm just going to keep going around the corners there. Alright, so we are almost done with this card. So I'm going to just outline that 4. And I'm realizing that I'm actually doing the top of the 7. But it's okay. No card will ever go to waste. So I'm just going to continue making some dashes, go across a little bit, and we're going to end that 4 right there. Alrighty, so just a cute piece of detail, even though I messed it up and went on a 7, but I don't think anybody's really going to pay attention to that right now. Alright, so there's a finished card. Oh, I love how this came out. And here's the card I made earlier. I gotta love it. You gotta love such an easy card with a different effect each time you do it, right? Alrighty peeps, that wraps up this card. Make sure to follow me on www.gotjoycreations.blogspot.com. Bye bye.